Welcome to the U.S. latest news channel. Watch the video to the end to find out the current and breaking news about the Russian war in Ukraine. Reputable universities. As a faculty member at Northeastern University in Boston among Russian disinformation, Larissa Doroshenko, who served as a specialist under state control institutions located made Russian citizens didn't care about criticism from passing. A situation which is not possible's campaign agenda is obliged to reach for bringing success is never stated. As a result of the decisions taken by the Russian government, which has been conducting a number of military activities and arrangements on Russia's attempt to invade Ukraine, a lot of criticism has been showered. Accepting the fact that military mobilization would not be covered within a plan was the first stage of the goal of making the narrative around this situation look different from what it was. Reputable news agencies, he told both local and world public opinion, which is often busy recently, this situation began to comprehend too much of the wrong host, and finally decided that this situation needed to be addressed. He made striking comments about the situation, saying, he also said that names such as Solovyov and Simon Yin, who appear on channels connected to the Russian state structure, organizations, personally serve themselves as a critical part of a civil society for the Russian people and can help with the mobilization mistake, which can be contacted by local military authorities. Arguing that this situation amounts to both a deplorable and vital situation, Doroshenko explained that it is necessary to be extremely meticulous in the name of further processes. Doroshenko, they are trying to be the kind of people that you can go and complain about yourself, tell about your problems, and want to find solutions. They are working. They will fix this situation. Immediately after this situation, they will also show their success stories via social media channels. Keep in touch with us, tell us, talk to us, show us this information, data, share specific details with us. We will deal with everything that may be problematic. We are doing what we can and we will continue to do. They said, they are trying to create the narrative, the situation. We are here only to help you, only to overcome your problems. Moreover, after these events, they continue to create a trusting relationship with people in order for people to be more inclined to believe that they are in their own interests. But again, no matter what, this situation took into account the Kremlin's own interests. In all these incidents, they direct the problems and the blame from the superiors and commanders who are affiliated to the Russian military unit to the level of the local population and to the mobilization points designed in a local way, he said. There are still grumbles against the mobilization decision announced by Russian President Vladimir Putin, which he shared with the public. It is foreseen that it will continue for a while and that it will increase its effect with its whole face. Many men of military age tried to flee their home countries in order to avoid conscription, and thousands of people were arrested for these situations after criticizing the nationwide protests against all these calls. Russian President Vladimir Putin on Thursday, as a result of the decision, they received the press release and mobilization of status accepting applications put into practice, said they would continue with the same determination. It didn't go smoothly. Russian President Vladimir Putin ended his speech by saying that all the mistakes and shortcomings made will be corrected, and this is the situation that needs to be addressed. The attacks of Russian soldiers against Ukraine, ignoring the human rights of the whole world, continue. During this ongoing process, dozens of people died, while many areas and government buildings were destroyed. During this time, Russia, which continues its invasion attacks unabated and makes these attacks even more violent, continues to occupy critical regions of Ukraine. Along with armored vehicles and military personnel, movements aimed at protecting the borders continue to be actively observed in recent days. After the partial mobilization decisions discussed at the end, most of the Russian soldiers wanted to leave the country. Russia, which has given full authority to its troops to prevent this, has not neglected to continue its invasions either. The last occupied area was recorded as Lyman Pocket. Although it is not listed in the records, it is reported that there are clashes in the region and a large number of Russian and Ukrainian units have died. Donetsk, one of the critical regions of Ukraine, was the last straw at the stage of these events. It was reported that more than 5,000 Russian soldiers continued the occupation in Lyman. With this war launched against the Ukrainian forces, the Russian troops seized the weapons of the Ukrainian soldiers and seized the critical areas in the region. During this time, the civilian population was allowed to leave the region, while the Ukrainian soldiers who laid down their weapons and did not refuse to fight were taken under the protection of the Russian army as prisoners. The Ukrainian soldiers, who refused to lay down their weapons, continued their clashes. However, since there was a considerable difference in the number, it was reported that it was an unsuccessful attempt that ended in the decisive victory of the Russian troops. According to correspondence reports, statements were made on the subject. Statements were made by the head of the Luhansk Regional Military Administration, Serhiy Haidai, via telegram. Since these statements are made via telegram, there is no share of reality. However, nevertheless, rumors and notifications shared on Telegram before and the realization of the sharing indicate that this event has gained value as an event that can also happen. As is known, Telegram channels are used as a valid sharing tool for both Russians and Ukrainians to communicate with each other and follow current news. Due to the fact that Serhiy is a share made on the official sharing page, the increase in the reality share of the news also stands out as another factor. With the tense minutes between Ukraine and Russia increasing, there is no news channel that the public can trust decisively by watching. Official state channels and various news outlets are rendered unusable due to constant bombings and various situations. Therefore, it is ensured that they can communicate only through internet organs. During this time, Telegram also stands out as the most reliable and easiest to reach organ. On the other hand, the fact that more than 5,000 Russian soldiers have recently entered the Lyman pocket has caused Ukrainian soldiers to share notification news on Telegram so that they can protect the civilian population living in that area. The exact reason for this entry was not specified in the statements. The information received from the Russian side was reported to be for the purpose of a precautionary measure aimed at ensuring security. Of course, the people of the region do not welcome the occupation of Russian forces in their regions. For this reason, it was reported by the Ukrainian state that they want Russian soldiers in this region to be expelled from the region as soon as possible. Of course, the presence of such a serious figure as 5,000 in that region indicates that there is an invasion attempt unrelated to security. Although the Russians flatly denied this situation, it was stated that this invasion movement on the part of Ukraine is unacceptable. In the coming days, they will decide how the cleanup in this critical region and the operations to get rid of the invaders will take shape. As of October 1, 2022, the Russian army stationed in Lyman appealed to its commanders with a request to withdraw. But this application was naturally rejected. As of now, information has been transmitted that it is surrounded by more than 5,000 Russian soldiers. The information transmitted by Haidai was from this direction. In this way, the occupation movements increased compared to the last periods of the war. Behind this, of course, we can attribute it to the fact that the United States is behind Ukraine and constantly supports it both financially and militarily. As a matter of fact, with this support that Ukraine receives, its attempt to repel Russian troops causes Russia to constantly counterattack in order not to stay at the bottom. As the violence of the opposing wars increases, the Ukrainian army is expected to withdraw, and both sides are sharing their trumps on the battlefield. In addition to the southern border, the fact that the soldiers want to flee the war stands out as a contradiction in their own way. Although they want to protect their country, it is known that the armies think about themselves and their families after a certain point. For this reason, it is reported that the soldiers are deserting and they want to continue their lives in a more suitable environment by fleeing the country. Since these requests stand out as a situation that can be met neither by the Ukrainian state nor the Russian state, they are applying to other European states as asylum seekers. Although border countries such as Georgia have opened their doors to citizens of both countries up to a certain point, it is noted that there is not such a capacity inside the country, especially with the increase in this number after partial mobilization. It was a well-known fact that Ukraine opposed the invasions together with the force it received from the United States against Russia. However, it is known that the power of the army continues to a certain point in this process. As a matter of fact, both the grant of the armed forces to Ukraine, which are at the experimental stage in a laboratory environment, the grant of billions of dollars in aid to Ukraine, and the stages of lending military support and the economic support of the army were known as agreements that can be considered positive for Ukraine. In the statements that continued with Haidai's words, new details about the situation were stated. According to these statements, it was reported that such attempts would continue with the aim of splitting the enemy troops and creating a safe area, or with the aim of surrendering. Again, according to the details stated by Haidai, information was given that almost all roads that were being used to withdraw or distribute ammunition had been closed. It was reported that the purpose of this was to weaken the power of Russia and prevent any support from being received through that route. In this way, after that area is secured, the Russian military will not be able to receive reinforcements, and if they want to return, they will have to face the defense forces prepared by the Ukrainian army. It was determined that they acted with the aim of ensuring the surrender of the army by cutting off food and ammunition support from the other side of the country in such a situation. During the long war period, this and many similar situations were encountered. In order to use the captured troops in the exchange and to regain the power that the army has lost, the barter method provides an advantage, especially in cases where both sides are in favor. Ukraine, on the other hand, wants to evaluate this at a peace table that will be established by taking prisoners instead of executing the soldiers they have captured in order to turn it to their advantage. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video to be informed of the developments at the speed of light.